Hello and welcome back to Podcasting's Praxis. I'm Dave, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns Hang on, I can do that better. I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Rob, mine are he and him. I think we got that in one.
Yeah, damn it, I love the power of editing. Oh, fuck. Rob, why are we here?
You want to get started with some real confidence, by the way. Our friends over at DEFRA, and specifically Steve Reed, are fucking at it again. There's a new mechanism. They're going to use more powers to destroy more things. This is a bit from The Guardian. Councils will be encouraged to work with police forces to seize and crush vehicles used by fly tippers in the latest government policy blitz before the local elections. That's right. The drone in the sky is going to crush your fucking car.
Is this why they did so well?
Yes.
Good.
I mean, we'll get onto the local elections, I suspect, in a little bit, but just this fucking deranged policy, and it's not you'd think that, well, the crushing of the van of the fly tipper might just, be enough, basically, but no. Under a scheme being led by DEFRA, new legislation will impose jail sentences of up to 5 years for people who illicitly transport waste in England. So it's transporting, not dumping, that apparently gets you in trouble now. I'm not really sure how any of that works.
How the fuck do you illicitly transport waste?
You put a bin in the back of your car and then you don't tell your partner
intent
about it.
Just seems bizarre.
It's what if it's just... Can the cops now stop you because they suspect you have bins?
Yes. Yeah, they stop you in your van and they pop the back open and there's 3 fucking full garbage bags in there and essentially you just go to jail for 5 years and also your van is crushed.
One of the worst parts about the Starmer government is that every single policy, like when you say what it is, if I ask you immediately, is it a cover for more stop and search and arrests? The answer's yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we never used to get this shit so much in previous shit governments. Like the Tories would have been something genuinely unhinged and unguessable in exactly what the policy they were proposing was going to do. And this one, it's just you will be arrested for having bins.
Well, apparently, the weird thing is this is like the crushing of the cars is not like a new power. This already existed because the Tories brought that in. But apparently, it's just too much paperwork to do it, and that's why councils don't. So, Labour is just, streamlining that process of just, crush more, essentially. What is the point of any of that? And also, good luck if you are just, literally caught with bins and then all of a sudden it's just, fucking crush o'clock for you. It makes just absolutely zero sense.
Yeah. I mean, you'll have a much easier time getting rid of all your rubbish with all the, with all the extra bin collections they've put out and stuff and all those Labour councils that,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is what, but that's the other thing, right? It's instead of just doing something normal, for one, paying your striking bin workers so they just, do the very hard work which you are asking them to do, which is, I would argue, quite important for, modern society to keep functioning because we have a society that creates enormous volumes of waste, which is a whole other thing. But in the meantime, we need those people. And maybe you have I don't know, some normal opening times for a recycling center or somewhere to drop an old couch off or something. Maybe do those things first before you fucking, just enlist the predator drone in your fucking bin collection issues.
No. Going to the tip should be potentially something that people on Twitter will get really het up about, as if it was Ukrainian fucking camera footage.
Well, I mean, almost. This is, of course, Steve Reed, the fucking prick, provided a quote about all this. Waste criminals and fly tippers who blight our towns and villages have gone unpunished for too long. That ends today, he said, putting on the fucking
already, then, has it? Cool.
Judge Dredd helmet, I guess.
Glad we wrapped that up quickly.
Yeah.
Mm.
The government is calling time on fly tipping.
Oh, brilliant. What a metaphor that makes sense.
Yeah, I know.
Incredible, like.
Everyone knows when the pub closes, the bins also go out.
It's last call.
Fucking cunts so much. Like, just talk normally for once. Do you know what I mean?
They all went to like the fucking same, fucking speech coaches, and then had like, 3 communications advisors all go over like this 1 3-line quote and just make it into absolute shit. Nobody talks.
They all just talk in like fucking sound bites that,
Yeah. Every single one of them has a contact lens in that just spins, and wherever that spinning wheel lands, that's the metaphor they have to use.
Yeah. They all just talk like fucking tabloid journalists, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Aye. What if the Sun developed the Terminator's HUD?
Yeah. Just wait until they start announcing policies with boffins.
I will.
There'll be anti-boffins, surely.
I will not stand by while this avalanche of rubbish buries our communities. What the fuck are you talking? Just apart from sound normal, just fucking pay the fucking striking web workers. Just I beg of you to do anything like semi-normal.
Maybe do that. Maybe invest in the service a little more so people can actually get things uplifted again without having to pay ridiculous amounts of money. Like some people need to pay fucking £80 to get a couch uplifted. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned this before on our Discord, patreon.com/PraxisCast, but it's like, over here, right, you pay, like, council taxes aren't cheap, you pay quite a bit of money to live here, but, like, every year I get, like, a new schedule for when all the pickups are, and with that schedule I get, like, somewhere between 4 and 6 vouchers of like, and one's like for a max 50 kilos of stuff, one's like for max 100 kilos. There's like, you get like, I don't know, you get like 5 of them, and then you just ring them and say, I have this voucher, you give them the code, and then they just come and pick shit up the next day or like the day after. It's really simple. It's really nice. Like, I don't understand why that's clearly impossible, and why the only thing the British state knows how to do is just like, what if we gave fucking Palantir the power to surveil the countryside, essentially?
Mm.
Like, I know it's essentially to do with council spending, which councils don't have, and we'll talk about that at the moment.
But the cops have the spare capacity to do all this shit, don't they?
Mm. I mean, apparently, you're like, who? Just like the look. I'm not saying that fly tipping isn't fucking shit, right? Like, when I go to my parents-in-law, there's a little wood we go, and then sometimes you see, like, a massive fly-tipped shit, like all the refrigerators and, broken pallets and that kind of stuff. And it really fucking sucks. And, like, I wish people wouldn't do it. And I don't know, for people who, like, chronically do it, or, like, builders who don't dispose of their waste materials properly, like, yeah, there should probably be some sort of fine or whatever, but, like, why is the mechanism, something out of one of the latter Fast and Furious movies?
It's really bad for the environment, though, Rob. Do you know how bad rubbish is for the growth of dog shit bag trees?
That's true. Yeah, I had accounted for the failing dog shit harvests that have been plaguing the United Kingdom for years
now. There's a great dog shit harvest, though, in the local elections.
There is. All right, shall we talk a little bit about the local elections then? Since you refuse to stop.
Shall we begin with a fucking tell yous?
Yeah. It was the result that everybody saw coming from 10,000 miles away.
It's lovely to see. Genuinely fucking lovely. Like, this was such a bad result for Labour. It doesn't look it if you just look at the bare figures, because, like, Labour lost 187 seats. The Tories lost 674 seats. So you could argue, Labour didn't do too badly, but you can't if you look at the actual figures around what was voted for and how many people voted, etc. This was the worst election result since, oh God, when was it? It was literally forever ago, like 2 Thatchers ago.
Yeah, I think it's also big. Like Labour didn't do quote unquote so badly because essentially not many of like Labour's councils. I think there were a lot more Tories that were up for the vote rather than Labour councillors in general. So like it makes sense that the Tories got their ass handed more of them to them because the last time this vote was held the last time 5 years ago, so that would have been under Boris Johnson, like back when Boris Johnson was briefly actually very popular.
Yeah, this was like vaccine era shit. It was also one of the worst Labour results that had ever been recorded in local elections, I think. And they've somehow made it worse. So that's cool. Good.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredibly funny. And like, I don't know, like I'm not happy that there's a bunch of fucking, reform councillors, many hundreds of them now. That's a really bad sign, right? I mean, I find is it Andrea Jenkins who just got elected mayor in I want to say Lincolnshire, like talking about like how she wants to put all the migrants in tent camps in enclosed spaces, which is what we call a concentration camp. Like
if it's good enough for France, she said, appealing to the British voter. Like
also like
pick a lane.
France used to do that, and they don't do that anymore. Like, did you wonder why even the French under Macron stopped doing that shit?
Yeah, it's one of these ones. Like you've got to look at the upsides to it as well. Can you imagine how happy the guyologists amongst us are at the moment?
Oh God! Oh yeah! No, we're gonna see some fucking insane fucking Facebook dads and other assorted freaks like come out of the woodwork. Like it's going to be, the worst shippers of shrimp Jesus are fucking in government now.
Yeah, I mean,
if you think that Labour councillor vetting is bad, oh boy, let's have a look at these
apparently a bunch of reform councillors are wanting to quit, like. Because they didn't think they would win. They didn't want the job. They're just like, you know what I mean? It was like we need bodies, just like fucking, you know what I mean? You pick up that rifle and start running. And now they're all
yes.
You know what I mean? They've all won and they're like, actually I don't want to do this, it's shit.
And like the other major plan that I saw, at least that was Thig Farage today, was like, yeah, we're gonna go through all the councils and fire all the DEI officers. And I'm like, I don't think there are any. Like I'm sure there's like a couple bigger councils that have like a diversity person or something in their HR department, but like if those people did exist en masse, they would have already been fired because, returning to a repeated theme of this podcast, councils have no money and haven't had any for a really, really, really long time.
Yeah, but
those people will be in charge of 3 other roles.
Yeah.
Yes, at the same time, they will not be fired.
Ban flags, though.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That you're only allowed to use hang the fucking butcher's apron and the St. George's cross. But I repeat myself.
Yeah. And but they've since expanded it to include county flags.
You're allowed to hang those.
That's good.
Yeah, but not Ukrainian flags. And so like, you know what I mean? A scandal, the likes of which we've never fucking, like, you know what I mean? Putin has won, basically, right? If the fucking council can't put a Ukrainian flag up, fucking hell.
Yeah. Paul Mason's mad as hell and he's not going to take it anymore.
The council shouldn't be putting fucking Ukrainian flags up. It's a fucking council. Not the fucking UN.
Do you know what I mean? I hope it means, like, we're going to see less fucking flags that are just, like, a fucking silhouette of a World War I Tommy with a fucking poppy on it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, somehow I think that, like,
one of them on the cenotaph down our way.
I doubt that, like,
shit.
Yeah.
Somehow I doubt that, like, your new reform council is actually going to be worried about, the weird fucking Tommy flag.
Oh, I'm gonna put a complaint in. It says here in the fucking rules, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Hope Crafty Wank's the one that finds it.
Oh Christ! Yeah, he's a fucking counsellor now.
Yup.
He's like shockingly close to being my fucking counsellor. You know what I mean? I don't actually know the 3 fucking dipshits that we got in. We had like, because they redrew the boundaries, so we get 3 counsellors for us now instead of just 2 like last time. But for like As long as I can remember, we've had basically the same 2 independent councillors who've been actually like great and like done stuff for the community, and now they're out the door and we've got 3 reform dipshits I've never heard of before, so I look forward to seeing what that brings.
Well, I mean, not that much, I imagine, because, like, you know, even the ones who want to stay, I imagine, like, the average fucking, you know, reform new councillor has been raised on a diet of, you know, the fucking Daily Express and Facebook slop, so they're all just going to be, like, running around trying to find, you know, the $5 billion your local council spends on, you know, teaching children to be trans or whatever the fuck, and, like, just come to the conclusion, oh wait, it's 90% social care, and we have to spend that money because, like, we are legally obliged to do that.
Yeah, but like, you know what I mean? The community centre fairly regularly, like, gets grants from fucking, like, or got grants from Durham Council, and I imagine now it's going to have to be, like, closed because community is woke or some shit.
Maybe. You never know. They might use it because they can print off grot on the printer.
Yeah, I mean, that is.
You might have to fish out a paper jam created by Reform Grot from that community centre. A brave new world.
Yeah, but it's just, you know, like, I think the only sort of upshot, I think there's 2 upshots still to all this shit, right? No, 3. The first is that Labour just, like, got hit on the snap with a newspaper, and that's just incredibly funny, like, whichever way you turn it.
You're mildly obsessed with that, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's because Gino...
Like... All right, okay.
Gino needs some fucking training. He's being a little shit. So, and I know I won't be doing that before you fucking DM me. I'm not hitting my dog. Shut the fuck up. But yeah, like, so that's like that's the first thing. The second thing is, like, it is very good that this is essentially like a massive crumbling of the 2-party system, right? Like, it really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not happy that Reform and the fucking Lib Dems are the main beneficiaries, which they are. But, like, you know, it's, I don't know. And caning out, look, Reform won't be better, but caning out, like, a whole bunch of fucking insane ancient Tory councillors who were also probably, you know, insane, but in their own unique way. I don't know if that's good or not, but I also don't know if that's going to be worse or not, you know?
Once again, I don't think any of it really matters because, like, since Labour got elected with Starmer at the helm, we have been on a set path. Like, it doesn't really make a difference at this point. Like, we're on the set path. There's no real, like, momentum behind anything, pardon the pun, on the left to actually get elected. Like, the Greens are constantly and just embroiled in a vacuum. They just will do anything they can to appear completely fucking invisible. The worst thing that the most that they've been able to do is maybe garner a bit of discourse about the leadership that's coming up, which is, like, simultaneously entirely irrelevant but very important.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, the leadership has. Yeah, the leadership's weird. It doesn't actually have that big, like, a grip on the party as such. It's a bit more on the properly democratic side, and yet, what if Hypnotits gets it, or what if the TERF guy is still, like, one of the co-leaders? It's such a stupid system, and I hate that it's the only party that's, like, kind of probably what we need to push against what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. Like, I'm fairly agnostic as it stands about, like, the Green Party as an actual thing. Like, it just seems to, you know, exist, and some people seem to really believe in it now. And I don't know, I'm very skeptical because, like, living on the filthy European continent as I do, I have some experience of Green parties, and, like, you know, mixed results is a very positive way of putting that.
Yeah. Like, we already have mixed results. It's called the Scottish Government, and guess what? It's not looking good.
Yeah, or, like, you know, the German Greens spring to mind, you know, like, those guys are technically green. You know, like be careful what you wish for, and like I don't know, I do like this new push about like sort of we all, you know, essentially sort of join the Green Party and sort of take it over from within. I think that's fun, and like I don't know, if you can stomach it, if it's your thing, then fucking, you know, do it. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, do it. But if you cannot recognize when a dead horse is dead, don't fucking bother. Like,
yeah,
if you're gonna labor brain yourself over the Green Party, like, as far as I'm concerned, you're already lost. Like, just be able to fucking call it quits.
There's a concept, like, isn't there? You know?
Yeah. And like, I mean, look, I think the whole thing today and like the discussion yesterday and whatever this has come out about, like, that London councillor guy, Zach Polanski, like announcing he's going to run, like, I don't know, seems fine to me, honestly. Like, I don't mind, but I'm much more like, look, if we're going to do this thing, let's actually take over that fucking party rather than just like land a guy in the top seat, because we have done that before and I haven't checked how that worked out, but I assume really, really well.
Yep, we live in paradise.
So like, yeah, that's, I don't know. And like, I don't know, like my main sort of base thing with all Green parties is they are, and I think I've mentioned this before, like in my experience, they're always like this weird sort of mix of like left people who find the climate important and sort of who are more attached to like the socialist side of being green, you know, because what's the quote again? Environmentalism without socialism is just gardening. So like they want to do both. But the problem is the other half of the party is always people who want to do gardening because they're bougie.
Yeah.
Like they may be very well-meaning bougie, and there's nothing necessarily much wrong with that. But like, you know, no, and it's just like, you know, and like the bougie ones, I've seen it in like a bunch of countries now. Like the bougie side of those parties does tend to win because they have like just simply more time to waste on sitting on committees and shit like that. Like they just have, and also they have, you know, they're lawyers and stuff. They love fucking arguing rules and excluding people from meetings and, you know, doing all the fucking 10,000 little shithouse tricks that we saw, you know, Labour HQ pull during the Corbyn days. And I don't know, like if Zach Polanski wins, good, he seems good. You know, I'd rather have him than Ramsey. I don't really have an opinion as to whether trans women are women. Like, that's good. If he gets in, great. But, you know, I don't know. Like, I'm just really wary we're doing that thing again where we've spent so long in the fucking wilderness that we attach ourselves sort of out of despair and
to
enthusiasm to the first thing going, and then don't really have a proper look around. And I'm not saying this guy's a bad guy, but...
Well, I mean, I'll say it if you want. Like, I just don't like the fucking cut of his jib. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've not seen like a conclusive fucking like after action report on exactly what went down with the fucking hypnotic tits thing. But like, frankly, at best, it's like a fucking incredibly fucking badly judged idea. You know what I mean? Like, even if you take him at his word that like he had no idea that the woman was a journalist, he was still, right, like, do you know what I mean? He was still, by his own admission as well, because he says, like he's admitted he never believed in, like, that it would work. So, you know what I mean? He was still scamming a fucking woman, like, with hypnosis there, as best I can figure out, right? Like, if someone comes to you and goes, like, can you hypnotize us to make me tits bigger? And you go, probably not, but I'll give it a go, like, do you know what I mean? If there's money involved, that's just fucking, that's, you know what I mean?
Well, if he even said probably not, that would be a fucking thing, but I don't think he ever did say that.
I honestly, like, I just saw shards of this story, and this is also honestly the kind of story that they leaked to Pippa Carrera and give her another fucking, you know, Journalist of the Year award for, so...
The thing is though, like people are doing the nuts about whether it's like how true is it, and like how fucking fair is it, and all, and it's like it doesn't really matter how true or how fair it is. He's the fucking hypno tits guy now, and he will be forever. So he needs to deal with that. Like, it's like fair play to the guy for his stance on fucking trans rights and on Gaza, right? Like, he's saying, do you know what I mean? He's on the right side of both of those issues. But like, you know, he was a fucking he joined the Lib Dems in 2015, and that just seems sus to me.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I'll phrase that another way. fair play to his stance on trans rights in Gaza, but Owen Jones is still Owen Jones.
But like,
know what I mean?
Yeah. No, do you know? He's got work to do. I'll put it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
I remain unconvinced.
We'll see. I don't want to talk about the Greens anymore. I want to talk more about Labour and how they fucked it and how badly they fucked it. Well, fuck it, the Green then. Like, I don't give a fuck. Fuck them. I want to talk about Labour and how badly they fucked it, and the incredible fucking way that they reacted to this, which was to have Starmer ignore it for an entire morning before then turning around to say, yeah, it wasn't a great result. I won't say it wasn't a great result because you expect me to say it wasn't a great result, but it wasn't a great result, so thanks for that one. And then he went on to say, the solution is that we need to go further and faster with what we've already set out to do, because the people just need more of what we've done. This is a clear show.
I hate this cunt so much, right? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like you ate so much fucking shit at these and we only had half of the fucking elections we were supposed to have or something, didn't we? Because pushed a bunch of them back to next year. But like, you got completely fucking annihilated because everyone hates you personally, like, and also everyone else in your fucking party, because they're all fucking just horrendously unlikable fucking pricks, like every single one of them, and everything they've done or said they're going to do is dog shit, and they've gone back on every promise they made that people were even remotely interested in. And so everyone went out and, well, I'm not voting for those fucking clowns. Fuck that. And he comes out and goes like, he's like, well, you're going to expect me to say this, but like, I'm actually going to say that, aren't I? The cool fucking stepdad. It's like, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't come out and try and like act like you're the fucking amazing Kropotkin or some shit. Like, oh, I know what you're thinking, but actually, like, fuck off, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? Fucking honestly can't stand him. Like, he's so fucking insufferable. Like.
The voters simply need more medicine.
Like, if he, do you know the worst fucking words to ever come out of that cunt's mouth are, I get it. It's like, fucking, if you ever need me to like, right, that's the activation phrase. Like, you know what I mean? Just like hold your nose and go, I get it.
Well, do you know what it is? Like, I read his article in the Times where literally the line is "I get it" and it's just he got like 500 words or more. It's quite an extensive piece, and like, you know, he says the same things he's just been saying for a year now. We will deliver the difference, money in your pocket, NHS, you know, immigration down.
Yeah.
Change the change. This is in the middle of the piece. I'm going to deliver for you and your family more money in your pocket, lower NHS waiting time, lower immigration numbers. The path may not always be smooth, but it will take us to the place we all want. And it's like, apart from that, you saying nothing new. It's just the same shit that I've heard 1,000 fucking times. Fiscal rules. You know, there will be an ice cream coming for you tomorrow.
He's like one of those Spider-Man action figures where you pull the string and it speaks, but if it came with a briefcase.
It's like the fucking, you know, the farmyard wheel where you turn it and the cow goes moo, and this time, you know, you just turn it to, you know, the Rachel Reeves goes ironclad fiscal rules. It's just like,
Yeah.
And I'm genuinely at this point.
Did you see
do these people honestly and actually, like, if I fucking shot them up with sodium pentothal, would they believe this shit they're trying to sell?
No.
I don't know. I think they might.
They've had media training from someone who thinks that like anyone earning less than 75 grand a year is an NPC. That's what the fucking like heart of the matter is. Also, though, I am quite enamored by the idea of briefcase Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Remember when Spider-Man had that little Dune buggy? Imagine if you got that, but with like a bottle of whiskey on the dashboard and fucking Green Goblin on a Deliveroo bike.
Peter Parker pen. The solution to this wasn't just that, though. There was also the rules about maybe we'll just sack Lisa Nandy and Bridget Phillipson.
The two people nobody cares about. I barely care about them.
honestly, I'd be really happy to see the back of Bridget fucking Phillipson.
Oh yeah, no,
except they were talking about firing her from education. Was she getting the boot from? Was she supposed to be getting the boot from fucking Equalities as well? Because that's where she's doing the actual damage.
I don't know.
I assume so.
It would be like one or both. But yeah, I really enjoyed this was put out, and then not long after there was that article about the cabinet being incredibly misogynist.
Yeah, which on the same day.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm not surprised, but the timing of that specifically was incredible. And the knives are out. Like, if anyone thinks that it's not happening, it is happening now. They're beginning to move their pieces.
Have we got that one quote from an unnamed source that said, like, fucking, they're going to fucking, do you know what I mean? They're going to, like, do the things that we promised to do, but it's those things that everyone hates. Or whatever the fuck it was, like.
Let me find it. A third Labour MP said, "It's all very well for Number 10 to say we've got to keep delivering. The problem is that it's the stuff we've delivered that people hate."
So at least one person in the party understands the fucking problem then. So there we go.
Yeah.
Well, shall we use this mode just to then start talking about our main topic? Because there are like several other groups of people out there who pretend they are the ones with the true answers, and I want to talk about one particular, group.
Is this Blue Labour?
Yeah, this is Blue Labour. I want to talk about some Blue Labour shit.
Only they have clarity of thought.
I know.
So we're talking about this because, as we were just discussing, like, Labour ate fucking shit in the local elections, and to sort of...
it's because they weren't racist enough.
We'll get into it. Like, Blue Labour does a lot of racism, but, like, they cover it up with, solidarity among the white working class, which, there's a certain overlap in the particular Venn diagram of those two things. Caps. Yeah, well, quite literally, because their founder... Maurice Glassman recently had like a fucking puff piece.
Every time I see that cunt's name written down, I just hear Rick Mail going, "It's the Glass Man, Eddie."
I just think of a really shit villain from the next M. Night Shyamalan movie. Whatever, I can't pronounce his name. Shyamalan, that guy.
Shyamalan?
That's sure. The guy who directed the movie with Bruce Willis, who's the ghost. Sorry, I spoiled that for you. But like yes. Yep. But because like he recently had like a massive puff piece in the Observer, which like after being bought by Toys Media, was like clearly on a better path. And yeah, he was photographed wearing his traditional working class, flat cap, even though he is an Oxbridge educated professor, who hangs out in the House of Lords, essentially. One of those.
Yeah, but with a flat cap on, because he's working class,
He really is.
Could they not get a fucking whippet at short notice?
There's two kinds of working class, right? There's flat caps and whippets and like fucking heroin. Like those are the two, you know what I mean? It's like the ones with the flat caps and the whippets are the ones you've got to listen to and do more racism for, and the ones that have like actual problems can go fuck themselves. That's how the working class works in Britain.
Yes. Yeah, so like because Starmerism, I don't even know if it has a direction, whether it had like an actual philosophy of government that was like over and above, we will simply be better managers of the state than the Tory were. Like, we would just twiddle the dials more better,
It's something that's caught up in itself, because fundamentally Starmerism is all about rules. More rules. Everything needs rules. The rules enhance the fun. And that is come into contact with a reality where they've been told, actually, rules cost money, and you don't have that because of the rules that you have, so you need to pick one. What do you want? So they picked having rules and yet not having rules.
Yeah,
so it's just about cutting corners, simplifying things, making things shit by doing less, while saying that they're doing more.
I mean, I think that's like 100% right, and I think all that like fiddling with rules and shifting rules from column A to column B is essentially in service of trying to save, the neoliberal political economy of the UK, which is broken and cannot be repaired by just like tinkering around the edges or like sacrificing a few more poor people on the altar of fiscal responsibility, because the fucking gears have like exploded off the wagon now. You cannot fix it that way anymore. It just
or even at all. I don't think that we're really in a position to say that you could actually just fix everything to go back to neoliberal existence 25 years ago or whatever. Like, we're past that point. There isn't actually a continuation of the current system. It either dies and becomes fascism or dies and becomes something better.
Yeah.
At the very worst, like, outside of fascism that we could hope for, it would be like a post-war consensus type deal. Like a straight-up New Deal type thing is the only thing that would actually reverse the state of the economy as
I think if you're sort of like still inside the Labour Party, or you're some kind of social democrat, like, you should be praying on bended knee that you get like a New Deal, like a nice sort of social democratic version that sort of, greases the skids for another fucking capitalism-inspired catastrophe 50 kilometers down the line, but still.
The New Deal they would give you would be Tony Blair's New Deal.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%.
Which, made me the man I am today. So...
Yeah. So essentially, because there's this sort of increasingly visible vacuum at the heart of the Starmer project, whatever you essentially want to fill it in, that means that, especially now, because the results were so dire, because the results were so bad, there's a real need for people to say, clearly we must change. What are the solutions? And, there are a bunch of cunts lying around like Blue Labour who say they have or pretend they have the answer. And that's why I want to talk about them, because these guys, it's a very loose group, but they're very in with like Morgan McSweeney, and like there's a Blue Labour group inside the Parliament which has like 30 plus members or something. So like they're not the biggest, they're not super important, but they do seem to be really good in the last few weeks of getting an awful lot of very nice press.
Well, I wonder how that happened. I wonder what could have prompted the British press to give a bunch of racist dipshits like fucking, coverage.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the only ones, though, I should say. There was also, I can't remember her name now, but there was also some 2024 MP from the Red Wall group of MPs whose instinct post-election was to say, what we need today is ID cards to tackle immigration, as well as an inquiry into grooming gangs. As well as, that Starmer should do more Trump and start issuing executive orders. And I'm like, I don't think the Prime Minister can do that.
No, he can't. Let him. Let's see what happens if he issues an executive order. Do it. Try it.
Yeah, so there's like, there's also the usual soft left, fucking cowards who are now demanding an end to Rachel Reeves's, shithouse fiscal rules, which is, good and should happen, but, these people don't have the fucking spine to see it through. And like I said, the aforementioned Blue Labour, who is headed inside Parliament by Jonathan Hinder MP, about whom more later, who was in the...
fuck himself. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. He's
going to get called all kinds of cunts when we get to him.
His bright idea is to have a one-in, one-out immigration policy, which, that'll attract the working classes back to Labour.
Cool. Can I be the one out?
He also thinks that,
Rob.
He was also on Twitter, I think, yesterday, saying that trans activism puts off the working classes. This is after
Super Tansky. Because he's a cunt.
Yeah, but that's also because Super Tansky got mad at him, which, massive let them fight energy.
Yeah.
And at least
real fucking damning when that constituency of people is actively fucking picking fights with Labour MPs. Like, yeah, that's really good. You know that they've fucking nailed it.
Yeah, so like a lot of this fresh new thinking promoted by Jonathan Hinder MP is I doubt a lot of it is like his own actual brain, because he doesn't seem to have much of one. But it's like provided by Maurice Glassman, Jonathan Rutherford, and a few other like freaks that you've never heard of, but that have like inside the the tiny cliques that run the Labour Party, have like a massive following, and like all their mates are in there. And if you remember, if you're not paying, weird amounts of attention like I do, like we do, Maurice Glassman, you may remember as like the one Labour person who got an invite to the Donald Trump inauguration. That's probably where you read his name the last time. And just to set the scene a little bit, also because it's an amazing quote. I think this is from Solomon Hughes writing in the Morning Star, which is a turf fucking paper, but Solomon Hughes is quite good. In January, Glassman appeared on US right-winger Steve Bannon's, I think it's podcast, where he made wacky claims arguing that progressives are, quote, the enemy. They are the enemy because they actually despise faith, they despise family, they despise love, and they don't even want you to enjoy sexual intercourse with your wife.
Unpack that, please.
You fucking dickhead. Like, honestly, fucking... Anyone spouting this kind of shit should just be fucking, like, do you know what I mean? Put in the stocks and have horse shit thrown at them all day. That should be his job from now on, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, the fucking woke lefties don't even want us to enjoy me wife. Fuck off, mate. You know what I mean? Anyone who believes this shit should be put in the fucking stocks and have horse shit thrown at them all day.
Yeah. I should note, by the way, just for clarity's sake, that Maurice Glassman is divorced. Pick a fucking lane,
right? Pick a fucking lane. Are we all like fucking Puritans that don't want you to enjoy sex with your wife? Or are we all like horrible fucking perverts that you can't like fucking, do you know what I mean? You can't leave alone for 5 seconds without us doing some degenerate shit that brings about the fall of Rome. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways, you flat cap wearing fucking hemorrhoid.
Yeah, I mean, I should note at this point, by the way, that Maurice Glassman is divorced, so maybe A has something to do with B. It's hard to say.
It was the Walks. It was the Walks' fault, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's that that had happened like 10 years ago.
Turned the wife against me.
It was merely a preview of the divorce ray gun we would later aim at Glinner, but but yeah, by at least like several accounts I've read across like several papers now, and the question's always like, is this true, or is this shit that Blue Labour says to journalists to make them seem more important? So it's always like critical to keep an eye on that. But like, these people, this fucking Maurice Glassman guy, are like the people that Morgan McSweeney now thinks are like the whisperers of the real people of Britain. And at least according to that piece in The Observer, McSweeney talks with at least one Blue Labour person every day, which, right. Yeah. But yeah, to sort of briefly bring us back on track. So I thought, before we get to like some of the modern day, emanations from Blue Labour, I think it is important to sort of explain where these people come from, because it is, I wouldn't say like a fully coherent ideology, but it is like it is a response to something, and I think it's interesting to sort of understand where, in general, these people come from. So there was a good interview with Bob Jessup, who's a professor and a Marxist economist in Jacobin in 2015, because like Blue Labour's been around for a long time now.
Yeah.
This is quite a long quote, but I'll read it in full because it sets the stage very nicely. Blue Labour is an attempt to say we are the Labour Party after all, and we should represent the working class rather than be the party of the aspiring middle classes. But this current, i.e. Blue Labour, doesn't take an idealised version of the working class, but refers to the actually existing working class. It regards it as socially conservative and nationalistic in the potential Labour heartlands, i.e. the Red Wall, what would later become the Red Wall because it's 2015. At the same time as arguing against neoliberalism and for corporatist arrangements and local democratic socialism. Blue Labour rejects the New Labour electoral strategy, which starts from the observation that the industrial working class increasingly does not vote, so it is necessary to chase swing voters by appealing to the home-owning middle class and workers who aspire to home ownership. Blue Labour aims to regain lost Labour voters who have supported UKIP or supported conservative social policies, or if you want to talk about today, reform, or increasingly do not vote at all, but also suffer from neoliberal politics and the politics of austerity. So
yeah. So I guess we're going to take all of the racist stuff that implies and just carry on with the austerity and the neoliberalism.
I mean, that's the end effect.
Hope that we can, hope that we can racism enough to like see us over the line. Well done, like fucking incredible Labour Party. You know what I mean? Just the same shit as ever. Frankly, they just got a different fucking like cunt that's supposedly fucking like got his ear to the working class.
Yeah. I mean, it's
the history of the modern Labour Party is just we found one prick who reckons the working class want X, and it just so happens that X aligns with what all of the fucking twats in the fucking like leadership and everything want anyway. Holy shit, who knew? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
much like in revolutionary France, you would go to the salons to hear about something salacious. In today's Britain, you go to pizza shops. And the owner will loudly tell you how much of a prick the cunt in charge of the Labour Party is.
So, like, the idea, sort of the broad idea, as far as I understand it, behind Blue Labour is, like, what happened under the neoliberal turn, under Tony Blair, is essentially, which is true, they did do this. They turned away from Labour being a working class party and chased the middle class and the aspiring middle class, you know, and sort of said, you know, either in the Tony Blair, Peter Mandelson way, you know, either they don't vote, they'll vote for us anyway because there is no alternative. And if they don't vote for us, they are sort of irredeemable and too racist for us and we don't want them as a vote. And what Blue Labour seems to present in its like optimistic version, like in its sort of positive version, which I don't think they really actually mean, basically, is like they want to return to sort of like a Labour Party and a union movement as constructed in the 1960s or 70s, right? It's white, it's patriarchal, it exists in like, you know, nationalized factories or big factories where everybody goes to, you know, hit a car with a big hammer until a car emerges, and then they go home and their wife doesn't need to work and puts dinner on the table, and, you know, the two children aren't on their dang phone. It's sort of, it's very like it mythologizes a past that also wasn't true in the 1960s and 70s if you care to look, but these people don't care to look because it would reveal things they don't want to talk about.
The woke don't want you to enjoy sex with your trad wife.
Yes, exactly. Or like in their own words, this is from I think like their statement like about us from the Blue Labour website. Quote, Blue Labour began as a challenge to the liberal consensus of the capitalist order. Democracy was becoming an oligarchy with the liberal left in control of culture and the liberal right in control of the economy.
Oh, fuck off.
I mean, this is
the slurs. Just say the fucking slurs. You'll probably get away with it. It's 2025. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, Toby Young will fucking come out in like swinging in your defense. Just say the fucking slurs, Morris.
So yeah, like, so what they're saying, which is not, look, it's not a lot of the outcomes of what Blue Labour says is very wrong, but some of their analysis is very correct. That like in the last, you know, since the neoliberal turn, since Thatcher, what we've seen is like an atomization of society. Like everybody's their own unique individual now, and there's no communities left, and that is a bad thing. And I agree with that. But like the way you get that back is not to like say there's,
it's not to just turn the big dial with racism on it.
You know what I mean? Exactly. Like, yeah. So what they're very much
tired of this fucking party. Do you know what I mean? Like fuck a lot of them.
So what Blue Labour wants, at least in their own telling of the tale, is sort of this very specific mythologized working class that is local, you know, that has but is not local and like individualist. It is local, but it is focused on, you know, in their own words again, community, family, and work. You know, they exist within a broader social fabric.
Redraw the like fucking administrative districts of Britain based around what you call a bread roll.
Oh God, the bread wars will be eternal. But yeah, so like again, you know, but it's strong echoes of. I'm trying to remember one of the many thousands of relaunches that Labour had in its first year under Starmer, but one of them was something like family, country, work, or something like that. You know, that shit. Like it has that sort of flavor to it. Like we will rebuild communities, but because the working classes
Brandon department like phoning up fucking Keir Starmer's office and going, yeah, how many Volk do we want on this?
But like, and this is where they're sort of different from like a Tony Blair project, who's sort of like make people individuals, but like liberal individuals, right? Like, also under the beginning of David Cameron, there was a sort of understanding that like you were supposed to be in favor of gay marriage and, you know, people of different skin colors, and, you know, you were supposed to be liberal and tolerant and all that shit. But Blue Labour's version is essentially like, these local communities, these workers in the Red Wall, basically, are inherently socially conservative. They vote for Brexit, but they still love free markets. But they just want one that is like national and local and controlled through trade unions, regional banks, and all that stuff. Like, I can't remember who said it first, but, you know, that sort of schism inside capital that existed in Brexit, right? Where we had like the local fucking billionaires, you know, the fucking Weatherspoons cunt and the guy with the JCB and stuff, you know, who are threatened by transnational capital. Mm-hmm. And these guys, that's what Blue Labour wants to protect as well, like Weatherspoons, but preferably one per region, essentially. And also, like,
I'll say this for them: they have a developed idea. Like,
they do. It's a shit time
to sit. Yeah, they've had a lot of time to sit and think about it because they've done fuck all of any real kind of meaning. But it is certainly a set of ideas. But for them to then say, and we know people would love this stuff, when actually I can't think of any normal person that would tell you that this is exactly their fucking political ideology.
No, I mean, I don't either, but I think, like, that's what the story they're telling and the picture they're painting is not like for you or for Jamie or for me or for, I imagine, anybody who listens to this podcast. The story they're telling is one that is to be told to newspaper columnists and other think tank people, and, you know, like and have it disseminate out from there. Like, that's very much what they're about. And like, so, and the company they keep is also, you know, quite interesting. And if you follow these things, then, you know, there are a lot of familiar names. So like, while it's very hard to pin down who is actually like a sort of, for lack of a better term, a dues-paying member of Blue Labour, there are people who sort of constantly live in this orbit. And the main one is Maurice Glassman, who wrote a book about Blue Labour, so he's probably like the guy. But the other one of the guy is, I mentioned him before, is Jonathan Rutherford, and he's not like so much technically. Is he Blue Labour? Yes or no? You can have a pointless argument about that. But the thing that he is currently engaged in is working with the Policy Exchange, which is a fucking Thatcherite Tufton Street nightmare lobby organisation, on a future of the left project.
We don't want it. Fuck off, mate.
I'm working on the future of China project at the minute. Sway, and absolutely can fucking dictate what China does.
So what among the things he did, because if you're Maurice Glassman and you think that like capital should be national and local, obviously you're in favor of Brexit, right? Because the EU is inherently bad and liberal, etc., etc., etc. Like,
The fucking foreign courts, yada yada.
Exactly.
Yada,
so he's one of the signatories of a piece called the Full Brexit Statement, which sort of tried to do this sort of, you know, I mean this in the most literal term possible, this National Socialist kind of way of thinking. Co-signatories of that, by the way, were some familiar names: David Goodhart, former, you know, New Labour guy who went completely, you know, out of the deep end. I think he's the guy who's responsible for that Theresa May line of, if you're a citizen of the world, you're a citizen of nowhere. That's David Goodhart. He's since gotten significantly more racist. Also, Matthew Goodwin, you know, the book-eating fascist.
Oh, fucking hell, that.
Yep.
And, you know, and among others, Paul Embry, who's also back, by the way, because he's
fucking godlike.
Yeah. You know,
you absolutely followed the rule of three and escalation there, like.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's like, if you're wondering, by the way, what Paul Embry's up to since he lost his job with it's fire brigades, right, with the FBU.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like, he's now a paid up member of I say paid up, but you know what I mean, like of Blue Labour. He's also on some kind of Future of Labour Council project thing, and he also recently wrote, and this is a quote from Prospect magazine, he is also the author of Despised: Why the Modern Left Loathes the Working Class, and which employs the
of the book. My fucking ring piece, Paul.
Which employs the ancient conspiratorial trope of a rootless cosmopolitan bohemian middle class up against a rooted communitarian and patriotic working class. If those words seem somewhat familiar to the work of Maurice Glassman, that is because these people are very much alike.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Everything
is fucking expensive.
Subscribe to Praxiscast at patreon.com/Praxiscast.
So, like, there are, and this is where we have to talk about immigration, because essentially their theory is like New Labour, the Tony Blair model of Labour, which is very much the Keir Starmer thing as well, up until now, and the Conservative Party are traitors to this lovely white communitarian, family-oriented, white working class, because they allowed...
Race traitors. Yeah, we get it. Yeah.
Well, specifically, they do a little step in between. Specifically because they say under neoliberalism...
Just to say it straight out loud would be gauche, wouldn't it? Like?
Yes, it would be. But they say neoliberalism allowed global capital to go hog wild by importing lots of people, into the UK to do all kinds of jobs that used to be done by proud white working class men, which destroyed the wages of these proud white working class men. And more importantly, these immigrants destroyed their precious communities, because obviously someone moving in next door who's a Muslim is no longer part of your precious community that existed, yay or nay, ever. That's, probably not.
That sounds like a problem for your community to fucking, sort itself out, you know what I mean? Like, if your neighbor, if you don't consider your neighbors to be part of your community because they look different to you or they sound different to you, then that's a you fucking problem. You can't sort your life out.
It sounds like your community's dog shit and should be destroyed.
But that's exactly the point, right? It's all racism dressed up in concern for local communities. Because, by now, and again, it's everybody who listens to this podcast. It's like, as we grew up and as the face of fucking Britain and Europe changed, and there were more people who weren't, the noble white working class, but looked different, ate different, sometimes talk different. It's like we integrated those people into communities and just simply formed new ones as well. It's fine, but they seem to treat this sort of this white working class as this community as this sort of holy static thing that is not allowed to change either.
Yeah, but the reason for that, right, is that back in the fucking 60s or the 70s or whatever, you still had massive fucking racist twats and fucking politicians and everything else, but the problem, the real problem is that you know what I mean? That sort of shit's frowned on now, and that's what these clowns are fucking mad about, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
It's like when you hear about fucking, you know what I mean? I genuinely remember someone telling me that you know what I mean? People around here weren't racist because back in the 80s there was a black guy lived up one of the villages, and everyone called him fucking Pete the Slur, and he didn't mind. And it's did he not mind, or did he just think maybe it was better to keep the fact that he minded to himself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder which that might have been but it's that sort of thing, you know what I mean? It's you were allowed to use the slurs back then, and nobody fucking said you were a cunt, so it was better back then, And clearly the problem now must be that there's more people because we were forced to stop saying those slurs because everyone thought it was fucking shithead behavior. Right now, you see more fucking foreign and non-white people around because they're more comfortable integrating into a society that frowns upon people being openly fucking racist. So clearly, you know what I mean? Clearly what happened there is that the cart was pushing the horse. And like, you know what I mean? These guys want to go back to the golden age of when, like, yeah, you would have a couple of neighbors who were like that, but you know, you could call them slurs to their face, and they wouldn't fucking like, they wouldn't call you out on it. You know what I mean? You certainly wouldn't end up like fucking getting cancelled in the papers or whatever.
Yeah, and
fuck the lot of them.
And you know, in their mythology, you know, all the white people in the neighborhood would still go to the same bingo together, you know, so they had a community which no longer exists. So, you know, they had a meet like that.
Mm-hmm. And it must be the problem must be not that, like, you know, the community center closed and that everyone's too like fucking working too long hours and doesn't have enough fucking, like, you know what I mean, disposable currency to fucking go to bingo anymore, and also the like bingo isn't run anymore because no one can afford to do it. And it's not all this fucking stuff that capitalism did to destroy the community. It's that I hear Polish twice a week when I'm out. I mean, no, that's
like I don't want to be fair to Blue Labour, but like their argument is like, no, they do recognize that like capital has destroyed these communities, that like that is part of the problem. So like what they want to do about these problems, like the destruction of communities, etc., brackets white, etc., etc. So here's Boris Glassman. He writes a lot, but this is on again from the Blue Labour website. He wrote this around Christmas 2022. Quote: regional banks, workers on boards, an educational strategy built around vocational colleges and recognizing that universities are stupid. Politics above policy, getting people to organize themselves and hold their arrogant leaders accountable, a bigger role for the state in the economy, a dignified role for labor, and the elevation of the places where they live, establishment of civic trust where once there were privatized utilities, held accountable by local assemblies, deepened democracies, loving liberty, and building Jerusalem in this green and pleasant land. It goes, as you can tell, somewhat off the fucking deep end right there. But
well, this stuff always does, though. Like, again, if they're doing national socialism, funnily enough, I'm going to find some stuff in there that, do you know what? Yeah, you're wrong about all the reasons why, though. Yes, capital did destroy, like, the entirety of fucking Britain's social cohesion. You don't understand why it did that or how it did that, though. Like, that is not because some people came from elsewhere. That's not what that was. That's not the cause at all. Like, I'm so sick of
but
these
like some
cunts.
right, but like some of these things, right? That Maurice Glassman at least professes that he wants is, you know, regional banks, workers on boards. That was in the Corbyn manifesto as well. You know, like more attention to vocational colleges. I don't think universities are stupid. I do think that the New Labour obsession with building 50,000 of them and saying we're a knowledge economy and then settling everybody with a bunch of student debt while giving them McDonald's jobs, probably not the best fucking way of, you know, building a political economy and a workforce.
Yeah.
Like, these
universities aren't stupid, but the way that the British state wields universities is beyond
profoundly
fucking
stupid. Yeah, so like, you know, the problem is on the economic side, I don't fucking trust them, but just purely on paper, there is overlap with things that I would like to see, and I think a lot of people would like to see. So like, you know, but the problem is the places that it goes from there, where you start talking, you know, less about the socialism and more about the nationalism side, it goes pretty fucking dark, pretty fucking quick. So, you know, like, this is, again, this is from the Blue Labour website. This is from their latest blog, which, by the way, is actually titled "What is to be done?"
Fuck off and fuck you.
So they list, once again, some of the stuff that we were just talking about, like when you're talking about economics. But they add some things. We should drastically reduce migration, reduce low-skill migration by significantly raising salary thresholds. This has already been done under the Tories many times. We should close the corrupt student visa mill system. This was almost word for word announced, I think, today by the Labour Party, that they were going to, you know, end people with the student visa system as exist, and ending the exploitation of the asylum system, if necessary, prioritizing domestic democratic polities over the rule of international lawyers. Now that should be, that's very familiar language because that's what the Tories were saying post-Brexit when there were still people arriving on Britain's shores, and they started talking about leaving the European Court of Human Rights and destroying the Human Rights Act, both of which are things that Blue Labour also thinks should be done, literally.
All right, what's their solution to the Good Friday Agreement then?
Don't worry your pretty little head about that.
Okay.
We must restore trust and authority of our police force, clarifying its increasingly blurred mission. Which, you know what they mean when they say that. We should legislate to root out DEI in hiring practices, sentencing decisions, and wherever else we find it in our public bodies, because, of course, they don't think that, whatever diversity programs should exist, because, of course, that is merely an imposition on your pure white working class communities and an artificial blah, 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 blah. You've heard the bullshit about DEI 1,000 fucking times. I don't need to repeat myself, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, and if all these things or facets of these things start to sound very, very familiar, it's because these things are not just like in bits and pieces all over like the Starber-McSweeney Labour project. One of the people who's very much in agreement with Blue Labour at the moment is current MP and former Chief of Staff to Theresa May, Nick Timothy, the bald cunt, as well as like a lot of the other people who see this idea of an idealized white working class as authentic. That's the way out of the quagmire is to promote an English identity. And I couldn't help but notice VE Day was this week sometime. I can't remember when. Right?
It's Thursday this week, but I think everyone was supposedly having street parties on Monday because it was a bank holiday, wasn't it?
Yeah, so what I saw was like, PR pictures from Downing Street where they'd held this like street party lunch thing and everybody was wearing British flags and, eating pork pies and, drinking English sparkling wine and, all that shit, like all the easy markers.
Society is fixed.
I keep coming back to that line from years ago now, but that line from that leaked Labour report about how they were going to win the election. It was like dressing smartly, making use of veterans and claiming the flag. It's just that shit all over again. Whereas this is not even dressing smartly. This says dressing smartly is putting on a flat cap and pretending you're not like a Cambridge-educated university professor who sits in the House of Lords, but you're some kind of fucking pro-whisperer.
Yeah. Every single thing Labour like fucking do, you know what I mean? Or everything Labour say about how they're going to fucking, you know what I mean? And enthuse the working class to vote for them just reminds me of those fucking leaked Sony emails. What if Spider-Man danced? The kids like techno, don't they? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I mean, and if it slots so neatly into like ideas that we've heard 1 billion thousand times. You remember when the Red Wall and the Red Wall voter became important? In the brains of like Britain's columnists and like MPs, the Red Wall voter is like these sort of Maurice Glassman type people, like, honest white working class people who just go to the factory floor, which they don't. They fucking drive Deliveroo fucking things. They sit in atomized cubicles. They do fucking call center work, or they work in the Costa, right? I'm not saying there's not an industrial workforce anymore, but that's not the face of Britain. That's not the face of the workforce either.
Yeah. Imagine being an MP who belongs to a group that was set up in memory of some bullshit that Laura Kuenssberg or whoever dreamt up.
Yeah. So, I genuinely, I can see what like Starmer and the people around Starmer see in Blue Labour and in this kind of mode of thinking, because they have any ideas that they had of their own, I think they've now implemented, and it's been a fucking catastrophe, as we've just seen in these elections, right? But this idea of this socially conservative white working class has been floating around since forever, and it combines very nicely with their instincts, for instance, towards having a big military and, fucking Angela Rayner going, we talked about that last week, Angela Rayner going around, oh, why should you vote for us in the by-election? Well, because in 5 or 10 years down the line, there's going to be, a new factory in these parts where we will make, the fucking bombs we will send to whatever ashes are left of Gaza, like that kind of stuff. And, right on cue, the day after the elections, here's the leader, and I told you we'd get back to him, of the Parliamentary Blue Labour Group, the egg cunt Jonathan Hinder, fucking massive prick. He got a nice big article in the Telegraph and spouted Blue Labour's solutions to, obviously the party eating shit in the local elections. I'll just give you the opening paragraph so you can get a flavour and also dispel any sort of questions you might have had about why is a Labour MP getting room in the Telegraph?
Because he's a cunt.
Can you hear that familiar sound?
2025.
Can you hear that familiar sound? The engines of the liberal establishment are revving up to explain why reform's success is definitely not down to the one thing we know it definitely is, immigration. So, not that poll after poll after poll shows that immigration is actually not their main concern. The main concerns are NHS, their housing, money, pay,
Working class people don't respond to polls. They're scared and frightened by the telephone. So, you know what I mean? Like, many of them don't even own a fridge, right? So, like, they probably don't have a phone. And if anyone who answers it is obviously middle class, right? That's like,
Yeah,
they fucking, like, they want to just, you know what I mean? Hurry up and get to the point where they try to, like, fucking legally mandate that you can only be working class if you're fucking racist. Like, that's where we're fucking headed, right? You know what I mean? Like, might as well make it official.
Yeah, so basically people...
I mean, there's probably room for a judgment about the Equality Act to make that happen, so...
But it does the great classic, like, category confusion, right? It's like... They looked at some polling of people who were asked, why did you vote for reform? And among the people who vote for reform, it turns out that, like, unlike the broader population, immigration is a much bigger deal because, they're voting reform. And therefore, the answer to the question, what must Labour do now, is also, therefore, do immigration in a bad way. Whereas this is still not representative, but it is easier than fixing the political economy, the broken political economy of the UK, to do that. And also, stop me if you've heard this for the last 25 fucking years in a row, quote, politicians' unwillingness to listen to voters on immigration. I have literally, in my adult life, never heard any politician talk about fucking anything else but immigration and saying how important the voices of people who hate immigration are and how they're hero voters, the legitimate concerns, the fucking root and bastard freaks.
Again, right? If politicians were actually listening to the voters, when I say the voters, I mean specifically the twats that vote reform, right? But if they were specifically listening to those racist dickheads, then why is it those racist dickheads still see foreign people in the shop? You know what I mean? Why do they still turn on the TV and see non-white people on shows and in adverts? Why did they see a pride flag? Like, do you know what I mean? We didn't used to have pride flags until we let all those, like, nefarious foreigners in here. You know what I mean? It's just fucking...
And it's such
it's just going to be fucking people yelling about immigration forever because, like, the two fucking things are, like, completely at odds. It's like what the government can do is crack down on immigration, right? But what the government, like, cannot do is make Britain a uniformly white, like, cishet nation, and that's what these fucking freaks actually want.
Yeah.
But they just don't know how to express that, or it's not the done thing to go that far. You know what I mean? So
yeah, or like in a sort of slightly I don't know if you want to call that positive, but a sort of slightly more constructive way of thinking about that. Like what they all want is to go back to a past that they themselves experienced of like the 1960s and 70s, where your wages did go up and you did have a chance at social housing, and like if you were white and cis and het, it was the best time ever, essentially. That for that subsection of the population, that was the truth. I forget the Jim.
Well, I mean, some of them.
It's only
a lot of them. A lot of them weren't alive back then.
Yeah, of course. But for a lot of them,
and it's also only the best time for the cis white and het if you also happen to be cis het white and racist.
Sure. So like all those things,
male.
but like, you know, but for most people, as you say, Jamie, they weren't even alive around that time, or they weren't in the working class at that time. They were in school, or they're talking about their parents. And they've just like mythologized this thing in their head, which A, never existed, and B, even if it did, is guaranteed never to come back.
Yeah, but have you considered, Rob? Have you considered 2 world wars and 1 World Cup?
Okay, well, you're right. Everybody, that's a podcast over. You can buy Paul Embry's book in every major bookstore. So yeah, like, so that's the first bit, right? That's the fucking Dan Hinder. But then, and this I found the more interesting thing. There's been a bunch of these pieces with this Maurice Glassman cunt out, right? So there's and also one. I mentioned him before, Jonathan Rutherford, who the I paper called the most influential man in Labour you've never heard of. And that's because he's just like pickled in fucking think tank brine for 1,000 fucking years. So like there's like 2 pieces that I read that I thought was like genuinely sort of an interesting look in not just this fucking cunt Maurice Glassman, but also how he's presented. And the first one, I've mentioned it before, is in the Observer, where he gets like the fucking gentlest of all possible treatments by the new owners over at Turtle Media, and the other, you know, and it's the pitch to the Liberals, to, you know, the sort of nice, softly people who, you know, see the Labour results and worry about it, and maybe this guy has some answers. And the other one is in the Sun.
Is this the one where he doesn't eat like fucking dinner or some shit?
No. He does eat, and I do want to talk about that because it's very.
There was something about his dinner not being woke, though, wasn't there? Like...
Yes. I do want to get to that. But the other piece that was written this time not about him but by him was an article he wrote in the Sun, and there it's not so softly and nicely and about, you know, being English with a flat cap on. There it's a bit more in line with what the Sun likes to hear. You know, a bit more National Socialist, if you will. But first, let's talk about this fucking piece of the Observer, because it is incredible. The vibe is fucking nauseating. Like, the vibe throughout, it's written by Rachel Cook. It's basically like, look at this cool rebel who's been around forever. He's got a flat cap on. He's such a cool, quirky guy, and he's got fresh ideas for the Labour Party. He's so cool. He's a rebel, don't you know?
The hip young man from the House of Lords.
Exactly. So this, just to set the scene, this is the opening paragraph. On the quiet, Maurice Glassman is surprisingly fond of the House of Lords. Yeah, no fucking shit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Where since 2011,
this wage.
Where since 2011 he has sat on the Labour benches as Baron Glassman of Stoke Newington and Stamford Hill in Hackney. Look up, he delightedly...
The working class, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's Stoke Newington.
Fucking Greenback.
Yeah. Look up, he delightedly instructs me, pointing at the gargoyled masonry and the cerulean sky. Isn't it like Oxford on acid? Yeah. He's, you know, he's a lord, but he's cool. He's a bit of a hippie. He's a rebel, don't you know? It's, you know, this guy's got fresh ideas.
Their fresh ideas the same as every other fucking cunt in the Labour Party.
Yes. Well, this is the dinner paragraph that I think you were talking about before.
It's literally just like fucking. Do you know what I mean? He is average like racist Labour member, but he's got a new hat.
Yeah, and also he eats. I don't mind telling you, Jamie, he eats Englishly. Later, he'll take.
From a fucking trough?
No. Later, he will take me to lunch in the House of Lords canteen, where I will watch him demolish a Barnsley chop and an apple turnover with custard. You know, because he eats Englishly.
Should have brought a bag lunch.
He doesn't eat pasta, you know. He doesn't eat, you know, none of that foreign muck. No, he has a Barnsley chop. Absolutely delicious, he will say.
What is a Barnsley chop?
I don't fucking know.
Chop.
I assume
it sounds like a fucking
product.
misbalanced humour.
Yeah, if you have a Barnsley chop, you lack enough black bile to keep yourself balanced.
It sounds like an illegal move at the UFC. You know what I mean? Like, no eye gouging, no fish hooking, no Barnsley chops.
Absolutely delicious, he will say, pulling the ring on a can of Coke. His gusto speaks volumes, as it's perhaps intended to, not for him, the disapproving puritanism of the progressive politician.
What?
He drinks a Coke and eats an apple turnover with gusto.
Keir Starmer just considers the Barnsley chop too erotic. Honestly, like,
my wife left me for a
don't
Barnsley
want you
chop.
to introduce
Very
your wife
sad.
to the Barnsley chop.
The woke left don't want you to enjoy your Barnsley chop with fucking custard.
Exactly. You should have Barnsley chops offer in the bedroom with the windows closed.
You're only allowed to shoot custard on your wife's Barnsley chop with the lights out. I'm sorry. Oh, I don't feel good about that
But yeah, this like his gusto speaks volumes. It's like this sort of John Bull style presentation, of like the British man who eats beef with a flat cap on his head. Like, fuck off. Maurice Glassman continues the piece, is quote unquote suddenly and unexpectedly the man of the moment. Because you are presenting him as such. He didn't like fucking, come up out of clear blue water. You're making this guy. So this is what we learn in the Observer piece. I've just pulled some bits from it. This is what we learn about Maurice Glassman, Lord Glassman, cool guy and hat wearer. He still smokes, because he's cool. There's like a smoking shed outside the House of Lords, and like he smokes a lot, so he's there a lot. And he's made a friend there. He's a friend there with the hereditary peer, the 16th Earl of Lindsay, and is therefore also against abolishing the hereditary peerage, quote, as if the place would be any more democratic without hereditary peers. I mean, not much, but it would be more by any fucking measure because hereditary peers. Like,
if there's one thing the working class love, it's racism. And if there's two things the working class love, it's racism and hereditary peers.
Yes, doffing their cap, in their natural, position, in their natural.
That's right. Like, yeah.
Would it shock you to learn that he also doesn't like Diane Abbott or Jeremy Corbyn, who are, quote, just reactive in their defense of free stuff? No further explanation given for that.
Go fuck yourself.
Man on House of Lords wage says what?
Yeah.
I know, fucking dress like a fucking adult, man. You look like you should be selling newspapers in a Superman comic. Go fuck yourself.
Unlike many, he is sympathetic to the benefit cuts announced by the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, with the proviso that he only wishes she would go further. I would like to see...
Well, fucking hell, shocked me to my fucking core there, you know what I mean? Like, imagine there's a cunt in the Labour Party who thinks we should do more cuts. Fuck me.
Yeah, well, because you can't be a member of the white working class if you're not working. So, it's kind of critical that you do.
Yeah.
I would like to see a real decimation of the administrative welfare state. Under every government, the state grows bigger and more useless. No, again, there's no analysis of what that means, why that is, why, Again, as the government outsources more and more of its shit and does less in-house, from the outside,
it's just
look...
vibes, though, isn't it?
Well, it's like...
like things get worse, so it must be because the government's getting bigger. Like, you know what I mean? No, I'm not going to look into that or like, you know, understand basic concepts or anything like that. Like, just fucking trust me.
But like again, he's not like he's wrong, but like he's wrong in this sort of way where I'm like, for most people, right? For those of us who are like normal and don't follow this shit weirdly like we do, right? What I can fully understand is like you look at it from the outside and you see fucking West Streeting saying, you know, we've invested 10 billion zillion pounds in the NHS and blah blah blah, and like you still can't get to the point.
He's never said those words in his fucking life.
No, but like words along those lines, it might not be West Streeting.
Yeah, no, but they come up and they say like, oh, we've you know given people an extra 40 billion appointments, and it turns out all they did was ring people and go, do you still want your leg fixed? And they went yes, and they go cool, and then like tick that as a one appointment.
Or like, you know, the case, good example, right? The Labour Party saying we'll nationalise the railways. They're doing nothing of the fucking sort because the rolling stock companies still exist. But like, from the outside looking in, you hear all these announcements like we're nationalising the rails. There's more NHS appointments. There's, you know, the national living wage is coming up, and then 6 months down the line, a year down the line, you look around and you say, yeah, but the train still costs more than it ever has. I still can't get an appointment with NHS mental care, for example. And, you know, like shit still... and my wage has gone up by 3 pence an hour, but I still can't pay my fucking rent. And it's like every time the government just announces more money being spent, but because it's not spent like on services owned by the government, but all on these outsourced freaks that just like sail it off offshore, of course people get those impressions. Like, you know, but the fault is not the fucking welfare state in all of this. The fault is literally everything else. Back to you know, another thing we learn. The Trump tariffs are actually cool and good because they signal the end of globalization and therefore, quote Maurice Glassman, the Deliveroo economy is over. We have to produce again.
Mm-hmm.
Is it over though? Have we looked around recently? Is it actually over? Is it gone? You know, are the 0 hours contracts not there anymore? Does everybody have a stable job? Blah, blah, blah. Labour must be pro-worker, patriotic party, not talking gibberish about diversity. It needs, he says, to be a party of place. Again, that's Theresa May's, you know, citizen of nowhere, citizen of anywhere, you know, and even though she's getting sacked, that's Lisa Nandy's towns again, because we've heard all this before a million billion fucking times. But he's also cool. I'd like you to remember that he's cool because he was actually a bad student at Cambridge because he was too obsessed writing songs and playing the trumpet.
Wow, that's a cool instrument, that, like. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Can we arrange to get this motherfucker a partial credit for inventing rock and roll?
Yeah. But he
every single thing you tell me about him, the only words that I can begin to form are Mumford and Sons prick.
Yes. But later in life,
do you know what I mean? I feel like we should apologise to like fucking any trumpet players listening who are just catching mad strays off this cunt here. Like, take it up with him.
Yeah, you are playing the devil's instrument though, and I will not forgive you for it. But yeah, later he did return to academia because he went to New York to study because he loves America. Would it, you know, fucking surprise you to learn? And in New York, while studying, he quote unquote discovered Machiavelli.
Wish I was dead.
He read The Prince when he was like, I don't know, 37 or whatever the fuck. It's like my brother in Christ. What's wrong with you?
Oh, a formative 37 years old.
I mean, I don't know, like, just like, but also like, he discovered Machiavelli and live as if it's like,
wait,
ooh.
You think he's fucking insufferable now, but wait until next year when, like, you fucking get, you know what I mean? Someone gets him a copy of Sun Tzu.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, just, you know, ooh, I'm a cool rebel. I'm studying, you know, this guy you've never heard of. He's called Machiavelli. He's got some funky ideas about power. Ooh. It's like, just... And if you're just like this fucking lazy fucking columnist class hack who just reads this shit and goes, wow, he read all of the prints? All of it? Wow.
A whole book.
Yeah. The last guy was impressed with only 8 books. This guy actually reads those funny little words they put in them. Question.
Oh, fucking hell.
Question. Does he believe in God? Answer. Yes and no. He's not very impressed with us,
wow,
is
yes
he?
and no. Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Blowing my fucking
A
mind
land
over
of
here.
contrasts.
He is fucking lying, though, because I found any number of pieces by Maurice Glassman in pages like the fucking Catholic Herald, which is some fucking very Roman Catholic.
I wonder what his take's going to be here.
No, about like really fucking like into stuff, about like various Vatican councils and stuff. It's like he's fucking lying. He is a Catholic. He makes a whole in other places. He makes an entire point of the fact that he is a Roman Catholic. One of the things he says, like they asked him, like, why were you invited even to like the Trump inauguration? Because he was a guest of J.D. Vance, that cunt house, vice president. And he said, yeah, me and J.D. Vance are both Roman Catholic. We had a discussion about that in the Oval Office or whatever. It's like, therefore, the answer is not yes or no. He does believe. He just doesn't want to say which he wants to believe, which is this weird, I assume, this weird nationalist fucking, Roman Catholic revival, this fucking Deus Vult shit.
I was going to say, is he an adult convert? Because J.D. Vance is, isn't he?
He is, yes.
And is Glassman as well?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, then it's quite possible he doesn't believe in God. It's like, do you know what I mean? A lot of these like fucking right-wing, like adult Catholic convert psycho freaks just, you know what I mean? They like literally, what appeals to them is like, you know what I mean? Just fucking oppressing women and minorities.
Yeah.
And like fucking white supremacy. Basically,
yeah. Well, it's just
that's why Vance killed the Pope, right?
How does Paul Mason square this guy's policies being all shit Paul Mason loves, yet this guy being a Catholic?
I don't know, and I'm also certainly not going to ask the fucking cunt. But like, but like again, like this, and like JB, you're fully right, because this is the kind of Roman Catholicism where it's like, oh, we need to go back to a time where people had religion because religion builds communities. Back in the 60s, when people went to church on Sundays and then they went to the pub. That's the working class we want to go back to. It's just another cover for being an exclusionary racist cunt. So, but it's all presented, like I said, like this, he's this flat cap intellectual and he knows the working class and he's really got these difficult ideas. But, he also talks to Donald Trump and he goes on Steve Bannon's podcast, he said, he's a kooky radical with, he's a man of the word still, Lord Maurice Glassman of fucking Stoke Newington. So, like, that's the Observer piece. Like, that's that presentation. So here, by way of compare and contrast, is him writing a piece he wrote himself in The Sun, where he's a bit less kooky and a bit less about the flat caps and a bit more literal about what Maurice Glassman is actually interested in. So he's talking about the election results. The Conservatives were the biggest losers by far. Correct. But this is also the warning of what happens when a magnificent tradition is corrupted by greed. The market worm had eaten into their patriotic soul, and now they are a rotten apple.
Oh, fucking... just once. Can just one of these fucking pricks talk normally for once? Do you know what I mean? I'm just a humble member of the working class. I don't understand, like, fucking florid metaphor.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote a book called Blue Label something or other, which I had a little skim over, and quite frankly, I was like, I'm not even doing this to you two. Like, I was tempted, but Thatcherism was the poison of the Conservative Party, not the medicine. They said, take back control. They said, controlled immigration. They said, levelling up. But they did the opposite and are no longer trusted. Yeah, no shit, they did the opposite of leveling up, you know. Certain podcasts figured that out fucking ages ago.
Yeah, but did certain podcasts say that the way to fix it was racism?
Nigel Farage, on the other hand, you know, he's not the solution because, you know, he's not about communities, right? Because Nigel Farage is, and he's correct in that analysis, is like Nigel Farage is a fucking, you know, pure strain capitalist, like a sort of Thatcherite capitalist, like naked in red tooth and claw, right? You know, and that goes against this sort of communitarian, nominally pro-union, normally pro-regional thing. Like this is why Blue Labour cannot stand Nigel Farage. Not because of all the racism, they're fine with that. It's because of the economics thing, which, you know, they imagine theirs will be different. But Nigel Farage does understand the people's anger and will direct it against us, by which he means the Labour Party. Therefore, quote...
Oh, fuck off, he doesn't.
Therefore, quote, Labour must confront the problem that the bigger the state grows, the more useless it is. Again, this is not explained, but, you know. Then he goes on to say, of course, that net zero is a bad delusion, which is driving away farmers and business. The farmers went away because of the fucking inheritance
Driving
tax.
away farmers to fucking where?
Yeah, that's also a very good question, you know.
Car parks.
Yeah. This is also just one...
really unsuccessfully trying to grow crops.
Also, this is just 100% a copy of a Nigel Farage Tufton Street line. You know, net zero is bad, actually. This is like they've been pushing that line for years now, and, you know, this is what we get. Yeah. So, what does Maurice Glassman, riding in the sun without his flat cap on? He looks like a fucking insane professor from, you know, some 19th century video game. He was riding in the sun, and what does he think his answer is? Well, I'll give you the bullet points. The first is he wants to double the size of the army in 5 years and create an industrial strategy for defense. This is Paul Mason's shit. You know, if the army is a source of patriotism, it is a source of inclusion because it is a community. People learn.
It's a fucking. It's like a mill for fascists. Yeah.
It is also that, yes, and also, you know, he's very pro the UK remaining involved with Ukraine. Therefore, we could also build more bombs and then send them over there for, you know, Russians to be blown up. This is a quote. To underwrite the industrial strategy, half the universities should be turned into vocational colleges linked to the needs of the armed forces and industry. So, you know, what if we just, you know, fed more people into the armed forces and industry? These are things that I have never heard of in, you know, 1932 or certain other times. Another thing, London and Kiev.
Like, where the fuck does he think he's going to get all of these people to double the size of the army and also fill a bunch of like vocational colleges that teach you how to craft landmines or something? I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, no, that is actually what he wants.
Yeah, like, all right, okay, well, where are we going to get all these people to staff the fucking tank building school and the army? Like, literally no one fucking cares. No one wants to fucking sign up for the army because it's shit. And because, like, what the fuck are they supposed to, like, what's the army going to do if Russia actually invades? Like, you know what I mean? They're all going to die in, like, a fucking, like, nuclear explosion, so no one gives a shit. And quite rightly, right? People are correct not to give a fuck about the army. Fuck the army. Right? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't fucking really need it, and it's never done anything good since, like, what, 1945, so fuck it.
But
right?
but the point of Maurice's Glasser vision of the army is not to have, like, actually ask questions like, what is it for? What does it do? Will it actually defend us? It is to have the idea of the army and veterans and all that shit.
But even, like, you know what I mean? Whether, like, whatever it's going to do or not do, where's he going to find the fucking people from?
Like, I assume he said we'll pay them more, but, you know. And also, Labour was saying the same thing, like, right before the elections, right? You know, we talked about it on the last episode, I think, where Angela Rayner was just, like, saying, like, yeah, you know, lots of really good jobs are coming to this by-election town in the army, you know, like, all that shit. Like, it's just the same piss again, but just from this fucking prick this time.
Yeah, I love my local army job.
Yeah. So the second thing, like I said, he's very much in favor of, like, he's very pro-Ukraine. Therefore, London and Kiev must hold the balance of power in Europe against the axis of Paris and Berlin, i.e. the European Union, who are essentially weak and gay and in the European Union and therefore, like, are not to be trusted.
Oh, yeah,
Because they are liberals,
fucking-
you know,
I'd
they
forgotten
are individualized liberals who've surrendered themselves to the power of the European Commission and are therefore no longer interested in
completely
white communities.
completely forgotten about this take. Yeah, like fucking Britain and Ukraine should form their own, like fucking, you know what I mean, European superpower. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and of course,
Join
you know,
forces against the EU because Ukraine famously hates the fucking E EU.
yeah. So also, you know, and this is something that fucking prick Jonathan Hinder wrote before. The UK must leave the European Court on Human Rights as well as scrap the Human Rights Act. This is him writing in the Sun. Therefore, the language is to the Sun. The ability to deport a drug dealer must not depend on the quality of chicken nuggets in Albania.
Oh, go fuck yourself, Morris.
Just, you know, like, whatever. Just, you should also, you know, and again, this is not a surprise because this is in the page of the Sun, but, you know, this is echoed by that fucking woman from the Red Wall MP group. Starmer should, and this is, I'm quoting from the thing here, do a grooming gangs inquiry. This inquiry should have the...
Again?
Yeah. Because the previous ones didn't get to the bottom.
Didn't get
of
the
the
result
thing.
we want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just fucking, you know what I mean? Second referendum on grooming gangs. Let's fucking go.
So he continues. This inquiry should have the powers of arrest and the trials should be televised. Very normal stuff, you know. Not something at all that I've seen in, let's say, Starship Troopers. What has happened in our country is a sin and an abomination that no society can tolerate. Remember how he told, the Observer that he was not religious. It has led...
Yeah.
It, and by it I assume he means grooming gangs and the effects thereof, has led to a demon unleashed inside our body politic, and it needs to be exorcised by public trial and the punishment of those who committed the deeds as well as those who concealed it.
Bold words for an adult convert to Roman Catholicism.
Yeah, for the benefit of the tape, I'm making the fucking, dismissive wanking gesture right now.
His further suggestion to, increase the popularity of the Prime Minister is that Starmer himself, because he's such a great prosecutor, should actually lead this inquiry while, I assume, also running the country.
Starmer does not prosecute sex offenders. I thought we'd established this.
So this
Everybody
is part of the
fucking
play.
knows that.
This is part of the play. It's to oust him.
But at the end of the day, we're almost done. At the end of the day, after all the fucking noise and bullshit about communities and regional banks and a defense industry populated exclusively with unionized jobs, go fuck yourself, Paul Mason. At the end of the day, what this man really wants and thinks will bring the great British white working classes back on the side of the Labour Party is Keir Starmer himself doing show trials. I don't think the people listening to this are going to be fooled by Maurice Lord fucking Glassman of Stoke Newington, the rebellious Barnley chop licker. I don't think that's how that works.
But if there's one thing we know about the British public, it's that the more they are exposed to Keir fucking Starmer and his voice that sounds like fucking wind blowing through a stack of fucking wheelie bins, is the more they're exposed to that, the more they love the fucking guy. They just can't get enough of him. Whining like a fucking broken motor every time he opens his fucking cunt mouth.
But reading the stuff about Maurice Glassman and seeing his fucking flat-capped head everywhere in the papers recently, and also Jonathan Rutherford, and also this fucking egg bastard Jonathan Hinder, who is a former cop, by the way, just to clarify things a little bit more. like the more I see of these people, the more I was reminded of that the sort of quite famous Milton Friedman line, right, about how a crisis, actual or perceived, is the only thing that produces real change. And when the crisis occurs, the actions that are taken depends on the ideas that are lying around. And what I see, maybe paranoid, maybe not, is a very deliberate idea, is a very deliberate timing of having these ideas be the things that are lying around, because Labour either is in a real crisis or perceives itself in crisis, and is, especially now, especially under Starmer and McSweeney, totally incapable of turning left or looking even like soft left. Fucking can't even do Lisa Nandy's towns anymore, because it is fucking antithetical to the entire project of Starmerism. And here, by contrast, is a project that, while the average, British person, if you tell them the guy who inspired this said that progressives don't think you should fuck your wife anymore, would go, that's an insane person, what are you talking about? But the average columnist will love this shit, because it's all in work, family, flag, patriotism.
Also, in the interests of like fucking accuracy, you should fuck your wife, you just shouldn't enjoy it. Very, very clear that we don't misrepresent the man's opinions.
Yeah, and like the end conclusion, the end of the line of all this economic guff, and like where I think Maurice Glassman's shit really lands and how they'll take it up, is not just this fucking insane idea of having Keir Starmer be fucking the Judge Dredd of a grooming gangs inquiry. Is that Labour's already said, no, we'll keep the PIP and the winter fuel cuts. Fuck that shit. But we promise you, pinky promise you, become more violent against migrants. And that, I think, is actually what, Blue Labour and Maurice Glassman will be much happier about, and also is realistic what he can achieve. So, like, the more I see of this fucking cunt, the more, like, I worry about the UK in general, but this guy is fucking bad news bears all around. Anyway, that's your look into Blue Labour. That's what I wanted to talk about today. But speaking of cunts and columnists, how about we round today's, podcast off with a nice touch of comment or commentariat?
The fish rots from the head when your law, language, home, hearth, family, money, God, and country are stolen by vicious thieves. This is one of the consequences. Much worse is on the way. All the urban areas of what used to be England are ruined. Don't steal sandwiches. Get out. Is that comment or commentary?
But what if I need a sandwich to make... What if I get hungry in my escape and I need a sandwich, Jamie? What will I do then? Okay, well, the answer, I suppose, is a Barnsley chop, but
we're going to get so many letters from Barnsley chop enthusiasts.
Yeah.
All right, okay, fine. Well, we also don't enjoy a Stockton knob, all right? So shut the fuck up.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, or an apple. Yeah, if you're an apple turnover enjoyer, why don't you go fuck yourself?
Is that? I don't want it to. It's commentary.
Yeah, it's commentary.
I don't want it to be.
That was a comment in the Times. Middle-class commuters stealing snacks for train home.
Wait, and that was the reason that God has abandoned England? That somebody has like a pack of what's-its?
Yeah, right. Well, apparently, right, some fucking cunt at some fucking think tank or something, or like, I don't know, his job was like writing in the fucking Times about like, how society's collapsed, but if you give him money, he's got the answer. And it was like, basically, he's looked at the data, and the data shows that a lot of shoplifting happens around like fucking, office kicking out times. Ergo, it must be a rise in middle class shoplifters, and they must be like stealing snacks for the train home because they don't want to spend their hard earned money. Not that like, people are poor and are stealing to eat. It has to be just the middle class doing it for kicks.
What maybe the solution is work from home.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe work from home. Is that?
Could be.
No?
That just gives you more time for shoplifting, though, doesn't it? Because you're not actually doing any work from home. I've heard Richard Littlejohn talk about it. Like, yeah, everyone who works from home is just doing 6 jobs at once or some shit. I don't fucking. Anyway, moving on. It is said that Walt Disney accidentally killed an owl when he was a boy, and that this formative experience was responsible for much of the creative genius that followed.
What?
Deleting Duolingo from your phone might produce similar effects in would-be language learners. Is that comment or commentary?
What? Does killing an
Walt
owl
Disney
give
killed
you
an owl.
creative superpowers?
Well, Walt Disney killed an owl and then also, like, you know, created a fucking media empire. So maybe if you delete Duolingo from your phone, you might, like, also create a fucking media empire. Is it comment or
He
commentary?
ate its heart and absorbed its wisdom.
Yeah, we're not here to fucking reason with it. We're here to fucking work out which cunt said it, like, so.
No, I'm just reconsidering how I'm going to
commentary,
spend my weekend, you know. Is it studying up on my languages or outside with a big net? I hope that's a comment.
I ate this owl and became violently anti-Semitic.
That was Samuel Rubinstein in The Spectator. Why Duolingo isn't helping you learn a foreign language? Well, because it's shit, mate.
Yeah, it's
Because
fucking
it's all
sucks.
AI slop now.
Yeah.
But it's actually because we don't murder enough owls to get Walt Disney powers or something. I don't know.
The owl was just like constantly grasping people up for communist activity.
How will this defeat the traditional rape gangs, the illegal migrant gangs, illegal DEI hiring, two-tier policing, and justice system? Is that comment or commentary?
That's Maurice fucking Glassman.
Commentary.
Yeah, commentary.
Well, it was a comment in the Telegraph. I'm about to read the headline of the article, so just bear in mind, right? The quote was, "How will this defeat the traditional, like, gangs, illegal fucking hire, all this shit, right? Phantom planes to swarm enemy radar before RAF fighter jets attack."
Okay. Are these phantom planes also responsible for identifying whether or not there's bins in the back of your car?
Yeah.
Probably. All right. It's the last one, and I hate it, so brace yourselves. Does it involve giving them a gentle slap each time they are naughty until they learn how to behave and to respect their parents and other adults? Is that comment or commentary?
Wes Streeting.
Sarah Vine. Commentary.
Commentary, anyway.
That was a comment in the Daily Mail.
Oh.
The simple test that reveals whether you or your child has autism.
Oh, fucking hell.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Just slap your fucking... Autism is just like, you know what I mean? It's just fucking made up, mate. You just need to slap your kids. Straighten them out. The fucking comments under that article, like, the simple test was like, pick something up and use fucking, like micro sensors attached to your fingers linked to a fucking machine learning algorithm to detect whether you grip things in a certain way. So I'm going to question the use of the word simple, but holy fuck, the comments under that were a fucking sewer.
Jesus
fucking God.
fucking Christ.
It was all entirely like people who don't believe autism is real, just fucking like acres of ableism and also mad conspiracy theories. Did you know they don't have autistic people in Africa because they eat more fish than us? To pick just one example.
No, I didn't know that.
Okay.
What I was just told I was not allowed to legislate against the content of these things.
Yeah, well, do you know what I mean? Anyway, that's your whack.
Thank fuck. Okay.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
true. You can, however, buy yourself some extra time. You know, at least a couple hours every month at patreon.com/praxiscast, where you'll get the bonus episodes and access to the Discord, and therefore access to all the little bonus clips that we don't put in the episodes because they fuck up the episode too much.
We put like I think 8 or 10 out on the last episode alone because we're professionals.
Heat madness.
It's back again somehow.
Yeah.
Twitch streams are usually available Sundays 6:30 twitch.tv/praxiscast. Merch also available praxiscast.tmo.com, and catch us on the next one. Bye.
See ya.
Yeah. Join the Patreon. Bye.